That was Richie Sambora's comments from the new Bon Jovi docuseries, Thank You, Goodnight. He has always maintained that he doesn't regret leaving the band, but he has stated now that he regrets how he did it. And in the new docuseries, he apologized to the fans and also to his band members. And it is a massive loss to lose Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi. To have the real old school Bon Jovi, you need Richie Sambora and Jon Bon Jovi together, right? Don't get me wrong, Phil X has done an amazing job filling in. He's, well, more than filling in. He's like the new permanent guitarist, right? To date, has recorded 3 records with the band. And of course, the band is still very much Bon Jovi, but it isn't quite the same without Richie there, that's for sure. He is just so much a part of their sound that it's just such a real shame that he's not in the band anymore. But he did leave. He had his reasons for doing so. He did that back in 2013 after being in the band for like 30 years. All those amazing records that he was a part of: Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, Keep the Faith, Crush, Bounce, Have a Nice Day, and more, of course. And it was Sambora and Jon Bon Jovi who wrote many of those tunes together.
I'm very, very proud of the achievements that we've had in this band.
But it was after the recording of their 12th studio album, What About Now, that Richie Sambora called it quits. And so, as we mentioned before, Sambora has apologized for the way he left the band. And that's because Bon Jovi were just starting out their world tour. They're about 20 shows into that, and Richie Sambora said, "I've had enough." He just didn't show up for the next show, or the next 80 following that. Left the band in a real tough spot. They had to get a new guitarist, Phil X, to come in and replace Richie for the rest of the tour. He did that. A tough thing to do, but he succeeded, and he remains in the band to this very day. And, by the way, has nothing but respect for Sambora. The band, of course, were not happy with Richie, but he did have his reasons.
It was a tough decision, man. You know, I had to leave that band, and then I had to leave my fans, too. So it was a decision that had to be made. It wasn't a popular decision by any means, obviously, but at the end of it, there wasn't really a choice. I'm really glad I did it. So, it's certainly worked out for our family.
So the major reasons Sambora left the band really were for his family life. He had missed a lot of his daughters growing up. That's Ava Sambora, the daughter he had with former wife Heather Locklear. He had missed a lot of her growing up, and he just didn't want to do that anymore. Plus, he had personal issues to take care of as well. He'd had substance abuse issues over the years, being in and out of rehab a couple of times. So he really had to sit back and take care of himself for a change. And after watching the new Bon Jovi docuseries, other issues came into play as well. It was for 2005's Have a Nice Day, where the band enlisted a new producer and collaborator, and that was John Shanks. Now, Shanks brought a ton of new technology to the band, extremely accomplished musician, but there was a problem. And when we come to the recording of the band's 12th studio album, What About Now, those problems were exposed. John Shanks was still with the band, producing the record, and a full-time collaborator, writing with John and Richie. But for various reasons, Sambora was being held back at times with what he wanted to play on the record. Wasn't always allowed to play what he wanted to play, and sometimes he would go into the studio and John Shanks had already recorded his guitar parts for him. Jon Bon Jovi at that time was all about, we gotta do it, we gotta get it done, time's a massive factor, and guitar parts were being recorded by Shanks without Sambora even knowing about it. So stuff had got really tense.
And Richie was really upset that on a song that I had written called The Fighter, he didn't play this one part on an acoustic guitar.
Sambora said, after all those records, people know how I play. And I went, have at it. During pre-production of that record, Jon Bon Jovi said that Sambora had, quote, fallen off the wagon. John said that he didn't know Richie was so crushed by the fact that he had been replaced, and no words were spoken. So Shanks and John Bon Jovi had like 30 songs for the record. Sambora came in and listened to it, and he said, that doesn't sound like Bon Jovi to me. Because, well, simply, he wasn't playing on some of it.
There was a lot of distance between Richie and John.
So it was kind of a case of Sambora wasn't showing up for a couple of sessions. Shanks would then play his guitar parts. Sambora would come in and everything would be done. Like he wasn't even a part of it.
But at the end of the day, it got sour.
Sambora said John had the whole thing kind of planned out, which was basically telling me, I can do it without you. I was getting treated kind of like I didn't write and do all that stuff, and I wasn't the guy to talk to anymore. Subsequently, Sambora played his last show with Bon Jovi March 17th, 2013, and has not returned back to the band in any official capacity at this point. However, there was that one exception at the 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Took way too many years for this band to be inducted, as it usually does with all great bands, but they were finally put in, and there was definitely a reunion here with Sambora and John Bon Jovi. No animosity, and both parties have always maintained that there's no big fight going on, they don't hate one another, it's not over money or anything like that. Sambora just had to walk away for personal reasons, family reasons. And this Hall of Fame reunion was one really awesome time. If you've never seen it before, I'll put the link below. You can watch the whole show. It's here on YouTube. After the induction speeches, Richie joined the band on stage. That's with new guitarist Phil X and even John Shanks, who is now a permanent part of Bon Jovi too. Late Bon Jovi bassist Alec John Such was also there, so that was cool. They're all there on stage together. And there was no tension, everybody was getting along. John and Richie interacting during the songs, it was great to see. They played 4 songs in their set. You Give Love a Bad Name, It's My Life, When We Were Us, and Living on a Prayer. So this is 2018, 5 years after all those problems and turmoil, and it had clearly all gone away by this point. Just so awesome to see Richie with the band again. Watch the show, you know what I'm talking about for anyone who hasn't seen it. Just shows you how much of Bon Jovi Richie Sambora is, right? You take him out and it's just not quite the same band, just not quite Bon Jovi. So there we go, guys. Tensions had built, the Bon Jovi machine kept rolling. Actually, John Bon Jovi himself said that he should have really taken some more time before the making of that 2013 record. Very hectic schedule, things are very full on. Richie had his own personal and family matters to deal with, and he wanted to get back to that. But as I say, Sambora with the band for 30 years, nothing can take away from all those legendary records that he made with Bon Jovi. And I'll even end it with a Bon Jovi quote here. You just never say goodbye to all those amazing times and moments with Richie Sambora and Bon Jovi. It's legendary.